facts and figures, but as I learn the facts and figures and keep asking a lot of questions and asking what the motivations are for different people to make these allegations and these facts and figures, I always keep digging deeper and looking into that. And I hope that you do too. I'm from Blissfield, and I went to the RIGA meeting, I went to the Ogden meeting, and I'll continue going to all the surrounding townships, because it appears what seems to happen in the history of these, when the turbines come into an area, is they try to get a very favorable ordinance by one township and bounce that from one to the next kind of thing. So a decision that you make in your township is used in other townships. If yours is more favorable to the turbine companies, then they're going to use your ordinance to bounce against the other ones and things like that. So it's very, very important. I do ask you to dig deep into the data. First two gentlemen that spoke, I couldn't repeat 10% of what they just said, and I've heard them say it before a few times. I ask that you dig very, very deep into this. I'd imagine you didn't really think you'd have the opportunity as a planning commission in Palmyra to deal with something as technical as this and as deep as this. But it's a big task, and it lies on your shoulders to do that. You know, I moved out here 17 years ago from Sterling Heights. I was a city boy, and I chose to live surrounded by farms, and I absolutely love it. And I've heard a number of times in heated arguments, some larger farmers say, you know, who are you, or who are you to tell us what to do on our land? Well, we're part of a community, and what I choose to do on my land affects my neighbors. A 500 and some foot tower affects everyone around them. It's not, the offsets have to be examined thoroughly. The flicker has to be examined thoroughly. The sound has to be examined thoroughly. And don't listen to someone who said, I went to a wind tower one time and I saw a wind farm one time and I saw one windmill working. And I asked those guys in RIGA, I asked them, well, when were you there? Well, they were there in July. They took a bus there with a whole bunch of people. They were there for a couple hours. They talked to a couple farmers that were pre-programmed, that were supporting and also taking checks from wind turbine companies. I worked underneath these wind turbines for 5 months. The first time I was there, in Iowa, me and all my guys that worked for me taking pictures. It was fantastic. It was really neat. We worked there for 2-3 weeks, came home, went back out there to work again, and there was a nice little frost that had happened. And then we noticed the noise. Then we started to notice the flicker. Then we started asking questions. Hey, how do you guys like these? We hear they might be coming to our area soon. Almost unanimously across the board, the people commented that they were lied to. They didn't like them. Even the farmers that had them put on their land were unhappy about the lies they were told about the development and the land, how it was misused in the process. So I just ask you, ask a lot of questions. Make a very, very informed decision. Your decision and recommendations for ordinances affect a lot of people, and it's not just the individual rights of the farmer, because we all live in a society where we all have to live with our neighbors' decisions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to add one other thing. They've told the Ogden Township residents this, and I think it's just a short, simple, good piece of advice. You only get one chance to do this. Once they're up, once they're going, once things are settled, there's no going back. So let's please not rush into any concrete decisions and try to take from what the other townships have done to put this off and not let things start right away, and really, really do the research before we do anything.
Anybody else?
My name is Clem Kriskowski, 9150 Gorman Road, and I'm one of those NIMBYs, not in my backyard, but you know what? You guys are in my backyard. I'm right on the line. I got the trees, and there you are. So we've been good neighbors. I like keeping it that way. And like the other people that spoke, I am dead set against this because what you do changes everything forever. There's no going back. Once the towers are up, you're going to pass it all on to your family. Those of you that sign this and have the nice farmland that you're blessed to have with, you're the caretakers. Take good care of it. Because Farmland is very precious. We only have so much. So take good care of it, take good care of the community. And remember, it's here forever. It's never going away. The people are putting it up. Will probably sell off within 5 years. Somebody will come along and say, oh, we want this, and they'll buy it. Now those people are gone. They got all the government money. They got everything they want, they're gone. Now somebody else is going to take over. And then they're going to go back. And it's going to keep going. It doesn't work without government subsidies. You can't make the electricity cheap. You just can't do it. So if you like government subsidies, I guess you're in it. But, anyways, take good care of your land, guys.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
My name is Eric James from WLNB in Toledo, chief engineer there. As the gentleman said earlier, we did commission a study that showed very drastic results to reception for viewers, specifically of our signal, because we did the study based on our signal, but the study also showed probable negative results for other Toledo stations as well. Our Toledo station, that's what they focused on. So one of my concerns is in a lot of the ordinance language that I've seen, there's no measurable standard for what is labeled as electromagnetic interference, which isn't even really necessarily the right term, because we're actually talking about just interference to signal in general, whether it's caused by a physical obstruction of a blade or electromagnetic signals put off by the generator. I know it's kind of technical, but the term can be misrepresented. But one of my concerns is that there's not a measurable standard in place. It reminds me of when I was a teenager, my family took a trip to Montana, and they had changed the speed limit, and it said reasonable and proper. And my dad got pulled over for going 95 miles an hour because to him that was reasonable and proper. And to the police officer it wasn't. And so without a standard in place that's a measurable standard, there's no one to say what is electromagnetic interference, what is acceptable, what is not. Just like the sound limits we're talking about, or they were talking about 35, 40, 45, whatever that figure is, it's a measurable figure. Setbacks are a measurable distance. There has to be a measurable standard for RF interference, because, and it has to be done prior to building, because their studies have to be conducted to determine what is the effect of this going to be, because as other people have said, once they're built, they're in place, and they're not going to be moved. So you can't just say, oh, well, we're going to test before and then see what the results are after. No, there are studies that have proven that these do cause negative effects on television stations. The American Wind Energy Association citing handbook even talks about interference to television stations. So it is a real issue that needs to be regulated with measurable standards prior to construction, and that would be my challenge for this.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
How tall is your tower?
Our tower is 600 feet. The broadcast antenna is at 511 feet.
And so that is, how much in meters is that? I was looking on a website tonight, and I saw some that were 300, between 3 and 350 meters.
Of broadcast towers?
Yes.
This goes back into the historical perspective of WLD and specifically our tower, and because of a practical difficulty both in FAA siting and FCC regulation, the narrow triangle that we're located in Fairfield Township is the only location that we could build back in 1998 when we built and signed on. So that's the reason for why you're seeing the difference, is based on FAA regulations and FCC regulations, which we're regulated just as everyone else is.
My second question is why isn't FCC involved in this?
FCC deals with, there's standards that the FCC has in place, but they are dealt more so on an interference by code channel FCC license. Just like FCC can really only regulate things that that apply for licenses to them. So they have to have a jurisdiction, and they don't have jurisdiction over wind turbines because there's not a wind turbines don't have to apply for FCC licenses, so therefore they can't impose regulations on them. So there's interference regulations, but they're in place for FCC licensed stations.
Why isn't every TV station in the state here?
Why are they, I'm sorry?
Why isn't every TV station in the state here?
Well, in reality, there's not really been an issue with here's the analogy I like to give. And it's like a flashlight with a golf ball, okay? If I have a flashlight and I'm shining a flashlight and I hold a golf ball way off in the distance, the shadow from that golf ball is going to be small. The closer I move that golf ball to the flashlight, the more effect it's going to have. And that's why we're here, is because of the proximity of the transmitter to from our tower to these potential wind turbines, and the effect, as we're talking about being good neighbors, the effect that it has not only in these townships, Palmyra, Riga, Ogden, Fairfield, but also in the viewing area outside, is being a good neighbor, protecting the safety and welfare of those people as well. So the results are broad because of the actions that are potentially taking place here. Oh, here's another analogy, and it's if you looked at one turbine by itself, and you ran a study one turbine and said, okay, what's the impact of one turbine on broadcast? And so you ran a study, and it may not show much. I like to equate it to if I had a car and I said, I'm going to put one small nail in your tire. I can still drive that car. I may have to fill up with air every once in a while, it's going to be a small effect. But if I said I'm going to pound 200 nails into your tire, the effect just accumulates, and so it's a cumulative effect of all this and the proximity and the height of them just coming together in a situation that hasn't occurred before. I mean, you know the size of them, but it's like a football field up there, you know, spinning in the middle. So you can imagine what 200 of those would do to signals passing through. And Jamie has the study. I think he's going to submit it to you guys so you guys can read that for yourself if you haven't read it on our website. But the expert that we commissioned has dealt with this multiple times before and is experienced in this area and definitely is extremely concerned and knows that there's going to be problems if and these again are based on the FAA approved public information that was applied for by UE and Exelon and Orison.